Today, I want to introduce you to one of the best kept secrets in college football. He's a guy who played at the FCS level, but right now he could be a hidden gem for this year's draft and is a guy that could put the NFL on notice if given the right opportunity. His odds of making it to this point were pretty much zero, and what he went through is absolutely ridiculous. He didn't end up having a single FBS offer coming out of high school, played at the Division II level, played at the JUCO level, and then went to a school not really known for producing NFL talent. Regardless of all that, and all the injuries he faced, Ryan Flournoy is a big-time NFL draft prospect. Okay, maybe he's not a big-time receiver, but he is supposed to go in day 2 or day 3 of this year's draft class. He comes in of Southeastern Missouri State, and in today's video, I want to introduce you to who this guy is. We're going to talk about his incredible story from no offers to one of the best players in the FCS, and how he got to this point. I'm also going to be joined by my buddy Andrew from Saturday Shenanigans, as he's also going to help tell this story. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what draft prospect, topic, player, team, or situation I could cover in my next video. Now let's get started and talk about the insane rise of Ryan Flournoy. So in the thumbnail I put he could be the next Cooper Kupp, and I'm not necessarily comparing his physical game to him, but in terms of his story and his potential to come out of nowhere, he kind of does remind me of Cooper Kupp. Kupp was a huge deal at FCS Eastern Washington, and Flournoy was a huge deal at FCS SEMO. Both are kind of similar in their story, but who the heck is this guy? Well, despite being arguably the top receiver in the FCS, his journey has not been simple at all. When he was back in high school, he literally had 0 Division I offers. His dream as a kid was to be an NFL athlete, and at the time it seemed completely unattainable. But through extreme hard work and never losing faith, he's now just a couple weeks away from probably hearing his name called. He ended up graduating from Homewood Flossmoor High School in Chicago, hope I said that right, and he was an all-conference player in 2018. But as I said, the offers did not exactly pour in for him, and he would eventually travel a state over to be a mule at Central Missouri. Not exactly the biggest school in the world, but he would do his best. He would redshirt his first year there, and then would make his debut in 2019. In 2019, he ended up catching 17 passes for the Mules, before the program did not compete at all in 2020 due to everything going on in the world. From there, he would now go to his next school. He'd decide to go the JUCO route and would go to Iowa Western. Sadly though, he'd be hit with an immediate roadblock as he would tear his ACL in spring practice, but despite all that, was able to make it back on the field for that fall. He became Iowa Western's most explosive receiver as he finished with 32 catches for 545 yards and 5 touchdowns. Flournoy said having the right mentality is what allowed him to come back, and he said, quote, "I ain't have a victim mentality. I can control what I have to control, and I had to work day in and day out to get right and bounce back." After that, he'd end up catching 38 passes for 7 touchdowns, and his best career game would come in the JUCO National Championship game. He ended up catching 6 passes for 170 yards and scored both of his team's touchdowns. Sadly, they'd end up losing 31-13, but he was a star. Sadly, that knee injury would be a real factor, as it scared some recruiters and scouts away from recruiting into their school. Not really sure why. This was despite being the most explosive receiver on the second best team in the JUCO football world. As I said, things have not been easy for Flournoy. He said, quote, "It's definitely been hard. I'm just trying to keep the faith that I know I should be in the NFL, and that's what has kept me going. I never let any obstacle stop me from chasing my dreams or getting me to where I want to be." Well, it was in doubt for some time. He was an extremely good player, and eventually he'd get an offer to go to Southeastern Missouri State. Flournoy found his way to SEMO for the 2022 season, and as a whole, SEMO is somewhat of an unknown school. They play at the FCS level in the Ohio Valley Conference, and even for an FCS program, they really don't produce much NFL talent. Only 15 players have been drafted in its school history, which dates back to the 1950s. The biggest name in recent memory was Christian Wilkerson, as he played wide receiver for them, and has now spent some time in the NFL. He was large and widely considered the best receiver in school history, and no one thought they'd ever see a player like Wilkerson again. But just a couple years later, Ryan Flournoy would make his journey to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and this is where I turn it over to Andrew to talk about his insane college career.
Ryan Flournoy's college journey was anything but ordinary. Halfway through his 2021 campaign, he had already received his first Division I offer from Southeast Missouri State of the FCS. Then in December of that year, he made his commitment to them official. In 2022, Ryan Flournoy was going to be a Division I wide receiver with the Southeast Missouri State Red Hawks. Flournoy absolutely carved up the Ohio Valley Conference that year. He started in 11 games, caught 61 passes, led the team in both receiving yards at 984 and touchdowns at 7. Also, he averaged 16.1 yards per catch. In a game against Eastern Kentucky in October, he put up 256 yards, which was the second most in a single game in program history. He was named to the first team All-Ohio Valley Conference, and he helped his team to a 9-3 record and an FCS playoff appearance. 2023, Ryan's last year of college eligibility. This was the final push for his NFL draft stock. Could the underrated wide receiver have a season that would land him a spot at the next level? It was no surprise that he picked up where he left off from the previous year. In game 1 of the season for the Red Hawks, they went on the road to play a 16th ranked Kansas State team. This would be a huge test for Flournoy, playing a solid FBS Power 5 defense. He silenced any doubters that questioned if his game could translate against higher level competition. Although the Red Hawks lost 45-0, Ryan hauled in 10 receptions for 96 yards, and it was clear that he was good enough to compete against anyone. He concluded the season with 57 receptions, 839 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Yet again, he was first team all-conference. Immediately after the season ended, he announced his plans to enter the 2024 NFL Draft. As the cherry on top, Flournoy received an invitation to the 2024 Reese's Senior Bowl, a postseason college football all-star game which showcases the best NFL draft prospects. He was the second player in Southeast Missouri State history to get an invite and one of only 4 FCS players to make an appearance in 2024. Ryan made his name heard at the Senior Bowl, showing out in practices and drills against the nation's top defensive backs from FBS Power 5 schools. In the actual game, he was targeted twice, including a 13-yard reception for a first down from Tulane's quarterback Michael Pratt. Ryan Flournoy also received an invite to the NFL Combine in March. As we know, the Combine's a great place for underrated players to increase their draft stock. He put the entire NFL on notice. His measurables at the Combine: 6'1", 202 pounds with a 4.44 40-yard dash. In a loaded wide receiver draft class, his athleticism score was a number 6 amongst his position, number 4 in the broad jump, number 7 in the vertical jump, and he was the second fastest player in gauntlet drills, barely behind the coveted Keon Coleman out of Florida State. To put in perspective how good Flournoy's combine performance was, his relative athletic score was 63 out of 3,000 wide receivers since 1987. According to scouts, his strengths are his toughness and durability. He's not afraid to lower his pad and take hits. He excels at yards after the catch and has very reliable hands. He can get off the line of scrimmage with ease with his good balance. However, scouts see problems with his small, lanky frame and speed. Well, these were some of the things that they said about FCS Cooper Kupp before he was drafted. And look how that turned out. Without a question, Ryan Flournoy is one of the most overlooked players in the 2024 NFL Draft because of his unorthodox lower-level route in college. But he has a chance to be one of those guys that we look back on in a decade that makes NFL GMs say, why did we pass up on him? As always, Scott, thanks so much for having me on.
So yeah, Flournoy is pretty insane. In total with the Red Hawks, he finished with 118 catches for 1,800 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2 years. He became the 3rd player in SEMO history to ever get to the NFL Combine, and many think that his extreme athleticism will give him a chance to make it in the NFL. While some will just label him as a random FCS prospect, Flournoy has a real chance at doing something special. He not only has the athleticism, but has the stats, has the work ethic, and seemingly has all the mental toughness that's needed to make it in the league. He's not afraid of taking a hit, he can do damage when the ball's in space, and more importantly, he's a guy with nothing to lose. He wasn't a blue chip 5-star, he wasn't a guy at a prestigious school, and he was always doubted. That, in my opinion, is the most important quality in a player, especially in day 3. While there is a chance he goes undrafted, I think a team will fall in love with Flournoy and would rather get him in the 6th or 7th round than to try and bid for him as an undrafted free agent. Either way, he's just happy to be here, and he knows his story isn't over yet. As always, I appreciate Andrew from Saturday Shenanigans coming on the channel, as in my opinion, he's the next big college football YouTuber. He has some great content over there, and he's been on the channel multiple times now, so be sure to support him, and let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of Ryan Flournoy? Who's your favorite underrated prospect for this year's draft? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.